I'm not a legal reporter, I'm not a crime reporter, I'm a business reporter. And when a business is doing things for years that just don't make sense, it just makes me keep wondering, what's going on? What am I missing? Okay.
ბათუმში ტრამპ დაუერის მშენებლობის დაწყების შესახებ ოფიციალური ხელშეკრულება უკვე გაფორმდა შეთანხმებას ხელი დონალდ ტრამპმა და Silk Road ჯგუფის ხელმძღვანელებს.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President.
How would you describe the theory of the case?
I think the theory of the case is pretty simple. This is right after the financial crisis. There's not a lot of real estate deals to be had. It was a paradoxical period in Trump's life. Because of The Apprentice, because of his TV stardom, he had never been more famous. He had never been more thought of as the model of a successful businessman, of a successful developer, and his business was in a lot of trouble. You know, there were multiple bankruptcies, he was losing control of the casinos. There was a real need for cash. The Trump Organization really is no longer a developer in the traditional sense. It's not building buildings, it's not buying land and then constructing a tower. It's really becoming a marketing company. It has this brand, Trump, and it goes around the world and around the country and sells that brand. There's a few reasons why these Georgians were interested in the Trump brand. So part of it, I think, as people have told me, is it really clicks with what wealthy Russian men, former Soviet Union men, think of as manliness.
He may be the most eligible bachelor in America. Please welcome Donald Trump.
They love the gold, they love the marble, the flash, you know, the old guy with flashy clothes and a young, beautiful wife. And there's a real brand synergy there that maybe there isn't in other parts of the world. Remember, the Trump Organization is switching to an international posture with like 4 or 5 people doing these international deals with very little experience overseas. And they're going into very complicated countries with deeply corrupt economies and really problematic interactions between business and politics. And eventually what happens, though, is you are in bed with some really bad people.
This happened in 2011, 2012. Why should we care about it today? Does any of this have to do with what we care most about? Russia, Russian collusion?
Yeah, so the reason that I started getting passionate about this story was when Donald Trump, in an interview with the New York Times, basically hinted that if Robert Mueller, the special counsel, begins investigating his business deals, he would consider that crossing a red line, and hinted that he might fire him. Now, I already knew a fair bit about how the Trump Organization worked, and I had the strong suspicion that if there was any kind of collusion, which there was, it probably had its roots in a business deal. So I thought to look more carefully at deals in the former Soviet Union. And what I saw here is the connection to Putin is just a few hops, you know, the shin bone's connected to the ankle bone. I could not have done it without these two Columbia University. They were journalism students and now they're investigative fellows. They spent unbelievable amount of time on the Georgian government's business registry. But then they find out that most of the companies involved are actually registered in these offshore jurisdictions, Malta or the Netherlands or the British Virgin Islands. And so that's a process of trying to find those companies. Ultimately, billions and billions and billions of dollars, countries all over the world. We really needed to choose, okay, no, what really matters is the people who are doing business with Trump. Who were they? Where did they get their money? How did they get their money? And how are they connected to Putin? That's what matters. 99 out of 100 people won't talk to you, but once in a while, and it only takes a few, you find people who will tell you some real information. Probably the weirdest moment was I was meeting a source who asked to meet on the waterfront, insisted that I leave my phone in the car. This person turned off both of their phones. It had that kind of cloak and dagger feeling throughout. I'd say the toughest thing about reporting on Trump now is everybody is terrified of being mentioned in a tweet, being attacked in some way. Now, nobody's threatened me. Nobody has said they want to hurt me, but it is a scary time to be somebody who's reporting negative stories about the president. And I do live in some degree of fear. I mean, I was a reporter in Iraq, and I had other fears in Iraq, but I've never had that kind of personal, someone could just decide that I'm somehow the personification of the enemy and ruin, cause real damage. And that's scary.
Do you believe that the Trump organization was involved in money laundering?
There's almost no question that some of their business, some of the money they made came from money launderers. Trump's not alone. I do think he's probably an outlier. I think he takes on riskier deals with more troubling people than most would. But he's not alone. But now he's president. And when you have this kind of promiscuous approach, this broad approach to being available financially to some of the most problematic people in the world, people who are from a part of the world where there is no separation between politics, intelligence, military, and business. They're all one intertwined elite. You have a disaster. You have a president who could, it's reasonable to fear, be seriously compromised. Doing a story like this, I'm like, boy, we have barely scratched the surface.
All right, thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
A plea hearing deal for the former National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn. The expectation is he will plead guilty.
Even as special counsel Robert Mueller's Trump-Russia investigation racks up guilty pleas and cooperating witnesses, President Trump maintains a consistent line of defense.
It's a witch hunt. That's all it is. There was no collusion with Russia, if you can believe this one.
Nobody has shown he conspired with Russia in 2016. And no one knows whether Robert Mueller will ever make such an accusation. But he's getting help from Trump's former national security advisor, deputy campaign chief, and campaign foreign policy advisor, all of whom have admitted felonies. A long trail of interactions with Russians already sits in plain sight. Trump relied on Russian money long before he ran for president. His partners in the 2006 Trump Soho project in New York included a former official of the Soviet Union and a Russian who confessed to felony fraud involving organized crime. In 2008, his son Donald Trump Jr. said money was pouring in from Russia for Trump properties. The same year, a Russian oligarch paid Trump $95 million for a Florida mansion Trump bought in 2004 for less than half that price. Showcasing a family golf course in 2013, Eric Trump told a journalist that Russian sources provided financing that American banks would not. Later, Donald Trump took his Miss Universe pageant to Moscow.
You have a special announcement where the Miss Universe pageant will be held this year. Go ahead.
Are you ready? The Miss Universe pageant will be held at Crocus City Hall in Moscow, Russia.
And he openly courted Russian President Vladimir Putin. Through his lawyer Michael Cohen, Trump sought to develop real estate in Moscow while running for president.
The stuff in Ukraine is shady. You were on like the wrong side of a people's revolution that the United States is trying to support now.
On the contrary, I was the guy who negotiated the deal that brought them into Ukraine, into Europe.
As his 2016 campaign chief, Trump chose Paul Manafort, who lived in Trump Tower and got tens of millions of dollars from Putin allies in Ukraine. As national security advisor, Trump chose Michael Flynn, who got $45,000 to join Putin at this December 2015 dinner in Moscow. As foreign policy advisors, he named 30-year-old George Papadopoulos and Carter Page, who'd been identified by U.S. officials as a potential Russian spy.
Were you in email chains with Papadopoulos?
Probably a few, yeah.
Were you in email chains with him about Russia? It may have come up from time to time. Again, there's nothing major, yeah.
Soon after becoming a Trump advisor, Papadopoulos communicated with a professor in London who said Russians had email dirt on presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Weeks later, Russians sent word that they had dirt on Clinton directly to Donald Trump Jr. He replied, "I love it," and arranged a June meeting at Trump Tower. Manafort and Jared Kushner joined him at that meeting with a Russian lawyer linked to the Kremlin. After that, Democratic Party emails that U.S. intelligence agencies say were stolen by Russia were publicly released by front groups. Trump publicly asked Moscow for more.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
Then in August, Trump's friend Roger Stone predicted trouble for Clinton aide John Podesta. Weeks later, Podesta's stolen emails were also released. Throughout the campaign, Trump spoke warmly of Putin.
We're going to have a great relationship with Putin and Russia.
But his campaign ridiculed the idea that Russia might be interfering in the election to help him, even after Donald Jr.'s Trump Tower meeting in June.
Well, it just goes to show you their exact moral compass. I mean, they'll say anything to be able to win this. I mean, I can't think of bigger lies, but that exactly goes to show you what the DNC and what the Clinton camp will do. They will lie and do anything to win.
After the election, American intelligence officials declared that's exactly what Russia had done. Trump accused those officials of unfairly targeting him. Trump's vice president denied any campaign contacts with Russians.
Of course not. Why would there be any contacts between the campaign?
And he also said that Flynn's post-election conversations with the Russian ambassador had nothing to do with sanctions imposed by President Barack Obama.
I talked to General Flynn yesterday, and the conversations that took place at that time were not in any way related to new U.S. sanctions against Russia or the expulsion of diplomats.
Now Flynn has sworn under oath that was a lie. And when the Trump Tower meeting with Russians became public in 2017, the president himself helped draft a statement concealing its purpose.
In the case of Don, he listened. I guess they talked about, as I see it, they talked about adoption and some things. Adoption wasn't even a part of the campaign, but nothing happened from the meeting. Zero happened from the meeting.
He fired FBI Director James Comey over the Russia investigation.
When I decided to just do it, I said to myself, I said, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story.
Then immediately told Russian diplomats that had taken the pressure off. The president hasn't directed his national security team to hit back hard at Russia with a cyber counterattack.
I believe that President Putin has clearly come to the conclusion there's little price to play here.
Bingo.
And that therefore I can continue this activity.
Yes.
Will President Trump pay a price? The list of prosecution targets has drawn closer to Trump. Prosecutors have now seized evidence from Cohen, his personal lawyer. The Swiss pharmaceutical giant Novartis now admits it paid more than $1 million to Cohen's company, even though it knew Cohen wasn't helping their interests in Washington. AT&T has acknowledged paying $600,000. At both companies, executives linked to those payments have left their jobs. The company they paid is the one Cohen used to pay hush money to porn star Stormy Daniels. Who else paid Cohen's company? The investment firm Columbus Nova, run by the cousin of Russian billionaire Viktor Vekselberg, who's close to Vladimir Putin. Not only did Vekselberg attend that December 2015 dinner with Putin and Flynn, he also attended Trump's inauguration as president. So did Natalia Veselnitskaya, the Russian lawyer who 7 months earlier had met with top Trump campaign officials at Trump Tower. President Trump's final line of defense remains intact. He has not been charged with any crime. In congressional testimony released in May 2018, his son Donald Trump Jr. said, "I did not collude with any foreign government and did not know anyone who did." But neither Congress nor Robert Mueller has interviewed President Trump yet.